to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and delighted to have back with us. Always an honor when we sit down and talk with Richard Lyons. He's a world historian, third-generation printer who's been involved in publishing stage and television productions throughout his professional career. He's the author of a fascinating trilogy on the American government, and the third volume is titled Passage Through the Shadows, and there's a picture of the cover of the book on the screen there. You can get all three of these by going to richardclyons.com or look for him online as well. But his website is richardclyons.com, and you can check it out there. Richard, buddy, good to see you. How are you, friend?
Great to see you, Perry.
Thanks for your time. I was thinking about you yesterday in a weird way, but it was a good way. No, I was thinking about your study of history and the rise and fall of civilizations, and even your writing now through these trilogies. And I'm wondering if, do you see any parallels of where America is today and what you've studied in the past?
Yes, I would equate our country today, the Democratic Party, with having a willfulness that I would equate to the French Revolution, the Jacobin takeover of the assembly, when they started attacking their enemies. And when they ripped apart 1,000 years of their civilization in order to assume a monolithic power based on the mob. I think this is where, if you look at the DSA statement, their platform, their plank, whatever you would call it, that is what they are tending to. They want to get rid of the presidency, the Supreme Court, the Senate. These are things that were established at our founding in order not to proceed as the French Revolution did. It's in order to have checks and balances. The Democratic Party, Perry, has been working incrementally for 100 years to lessen the power of one of the checks and balances, the states themselves. They've been working very hard to bring all legislation of the country into one central place, and that being Washington, D.C. They've worked for 100 years to establish the administrative state, wherein rules with the effects of laws are and they aren't even legislated, they're enforced through the agencies. And this, again, is contrary to the idea of checks and balances. So what the DSA is, and again, you asked me what it reminds me of, they have an arrogance that I would make akin to Athens when they again became more or less affected by mob rule. They threw out all the moderating voices of Athens and attacked a fellow democracy, Syracuse, out of arrogance and hubris. And I think the Democratic Party is right there. What the difference is that they have it's no longer the middle of their party. I'm going to call it the Obama wing of the party, which is itself socialist. But they're trying to affect things through policy, but not pronounce it. They don't have to make it open. They can do it through the administrative state quietly, like DEI, like ESG, like the Green New Deal, which was hidden in the Inflation Reduction Act. That's the way that the Obama Democrats operate. The DSA is coming out blatantly and saying, we hate this country and we want to rip it to pieces. And we are the ones to be entrusted with the ruins. And they haven't got the education, Perry, to run a popsicle stand. If you listen to what Mamdani is saying in New York about just opening groceries, he is subsidizing groceries with taxpayer money in order to destroy his other constituents, which are other grocery store owners that aren't the city. He's going to look at all the pricing throughout the city that are owned by, like a bodega, owned by it. And he's going to say, okay, these are your prices. Our grocery store is going to offer the same thing at a 30% discount. Why? Because taxpayers are funding it. So what's going to happen? All the grocery stores around the government grocery store are going to go out of business. And this is his idea of how economics should run in New York City. It's deeply uneducated in economics and finance.
Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit. DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, they're very much now in control of the DNC. What happens to the Democrat that doesn't want to be identified with this?
Is the good factor here, Perry, is we are getting closer to the midterms. It has to be asked of every Obama Democrat, do you actually believe in the same things this DSA candidate believes in. And I go to a deeper approach, Perry. How can a DSA, say Chevalier, she won her primary, say she wins the general election. How can it is constitutional, a constitutional mandate, in other words, law, that anyone entering into the federal government has to take an oath to protect and serve the Constitution. They have openly claimed that they want to destroy the Constitution. So how can they enter into office having taken an oath? They've lied to. This is what we're dealing with here. The Democrats were capable of doing this for 100 years quietly. Now it's very loud. And the question of every media person from now until the midterms has to be, do you believe in the DSA? Do you agree with what they're saying? Second, do you believe in the Constitution as it was written? It has to finally be asked of the Democrat Party, point blank, whether they love America and its founding and its Constitution and believe in the separation of powers, believe in checks and balances, believe in the Supreme Court, believe in the Senate, believe in the limitations of government. This has to be asked of every candidate, either by the Republican Party candidate or by the media. We have to see where these outrageous people are now going.
Alan Dershowitz made a statement the other day. It did make news for a little while. He's been a very loyal Democrat for years and years and years. He left the Democratic Party, and then he made the statement. He said he finally believes, and I'm somewhat paraphrasing his statement, he clearly and deeply believes that the Democratic Party is now evil. Now, this is Alan Dershowitz. I don't think he throws those words around lightly. But
no, he would not. And he would not. He might be the best practicing lawyer in America. And lawyers pay attention to their language. And I've always had great respect for Alan Dershowitz. And he is not wrong. When you look at the anti-Semitism, when you look at what the left is doing to Christians during the Biden administration, normal Christians and certainly Catholics were being investigated by the Department of Justice and the FBI. This is not in accordance with our Constitution. And that's why we have to, you were right in the opening. When you said, are we at a divide in our country? We are absolutely at a divide. We used to have common ground between the parties for decades. And now the left has gone so far, they are drifting towards tyranny. The Republicans are going the opposite direction, actually. The conservatives are going towards a more constitutional idea, an idea akin to our founding, where the Democrats are going towards mob rule and just the source of policies you find in anarchy or tyranny, not in rational government. And our country, which has survived 250 years, needs to take a real good look at itself. And the persons pressing D on the ballot just because they've done it all their lives have to know the D doesn't stand for rationality or common sense or this government this country has been so successful with for 250 years. They better think about it.
When reading the book, Rules for Radicals, I know you're familiar with it, basically, the book is saying use chaos to advance your agenda, and it's done that very well. Here's my concern. You and I can sit here and pick the DSA and everything else with the left apart and probably do so with accuracy, obviously. My concern, Richard, is are we motivated to vote?
That is one of my great concerns, Perry. I was planning on an article just before the election. And again, we're hit a Y in the road. And if you think about what was suffered in the revolution, for us to have that vote, to be able to elect our own representatives, it's the difference between tyranny and liberty, the people being able to choose who are in government. And we fought to extend the franchise in the Civil War at the cost of over 1 million casualties. We fought against what the DSA represents in World War II. We fought against it during the Cold War. We fought against it through proxy wars, as in Vietnam. And now we find it in our own country, in a group of people that, again, they are severely uneducated. They have never worked real jobs in their lives. And now they want to transform our whole economy. They've never held a practical job and they want to transform our entire government. I don't even know if they have the practical experience of being family people, of raising children, of running a farm, a grocery store, anything. And they want to transform the country. Why don't they move to Cuba? What they want is in operation there right now. Why don't they move to China? Rather than transform our whole country, why don't they go to a country that is already tyrannical? Why don't they go to some of these countries in the Middle East if they're Islamists. And see how they do. Why be here? Why want to destroy this country?
All right, so let me ask you one other question before I take a break. This will scratch your brain a little bit. It's proven, I can almost prove, in fact, I know I can prove it in the state of Oregon just by voter registration. But here's the point. If Christians don't show up and vote, we're going to lose again. And they have a poor voting record. Even if they would look at it spiritually, it would motivate them. But it's like, why bother? What do you think about that?
I think it's a tragedy in America that people take for granted the rights that the left is threatening. If the left is successful, during Joe Biden, all Christians were being oppressed. Under Joe Biden, political opponents were being subject to lawfare. Everything is threatened. The American economy, our right to faith, our right to a free press, our right to being a political opponent, all these things are threatened by the left now, and they have to be voted out, and voted out in such a way that a message is sent. Party, given their ultimate goal, and the DSA is pronouncing what is the goal, or has been the goal of the whole party throughout the last decades, at least since Obama, that they want to pack the court. They want to allow Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. to become states so that they hold permanent majority in the Senate. These are things that have long been advocated. The DSA is coming out and saying, we're going to even go further. We're not going to be even moderate as the Obama administration, which was not moderate at all. Everybody has to vote. My God, people have fought and died for that right of ours.
Let me take a break here. Check out Richard's website, richardclyons.com. Certainly maybe get the whole trilogy of his American Government. The last volume 3 now is available, Passage Through the Shadows. There's a picture of the cover of the book. Check out all 3, richardclyons.com. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Delight to have with us Richard Lyons, world historian and the author of a fascinating trilogy on American government. And you can get all of those online, but his last one is out, called The Passage Through the Shadows. Picture of the cover there of the book on the screen. And go to his website, richardclyons.com. Richard, I want to focus back on headlines a little bit. We're in this war in Iran, and being the historian that you are, it doesn't appear we can leave this war undone. I'm not pro-war. I don't like people dying. I don't want people to think I'm a hawk here and a warmonger, but we can't leave this war undone. And yet we think we can negotiate with these people. What's missing here, Coach?
It goes back fundamentally to the difference between Islam and the rest of the world, really. Well, the Chinese are somewhat prone to this. If you are an Islamist and you are in negotiations with a person whom they consider to be an infidel, you are under no obligation to tell the truth. In fact, if it furthers the advance of Islam, you should lie. It's like the Chinese. The Chinese believe if you can be crafty and tell a lie that sounds like truth and thereby win a negotiation, you're doing better than telling the truth. And I think the problem in Iran right now is you have 2 sets of hardliners. You have the diplomats and you have the IRGC. And the diplomats are trying to say, please, let's talk, while the IRGC is standing back there and saying, whatever you agree to, we do not agree. And they are so hell-bent. Look at what they're doing to preserve uranium, crawling into caves that are otherwise a living hell to preserve what? Weapons to unleash hell. That's who we're dealing with here. And the problem, there's a deeper problem in the region, and it is since the Arab Spring, when everybody stood up and protested, whether it was in Libya or Syria, and they had wonderful parades, and it reminded of the Orange Revolution in Eastern Europe. Since then, the clerics and the military have retaken all that territory. None of the pro-democracy protests have worked in the region. And now you're asking the hardest line country to be pro-democracy. I don't know we're ever going to get to there. I think we have knocked the nuclear threat back 20 years, but I think it still exists. And it's the heart of the subject of this book, Perry, but by the chance of war. And if you read part 4, it is eerily similar to the war we're in right now. And I think it's prophetic.
Okay, do we finish it?
I think it has to go another step where we have an agreement with Iran that they will never develop a nuclear weapon, where we expand the Abraham Accords, other Gulf states who can recognize Israel. The more Arab states interact within Israel on a friendly and economic and prosperous basis, the more the moderates in that region will rise politically. And I think that's Trump's hope. That's the whole basis of the Abraham Accords.
Why hasn't Saudi Arabia come in? And will we ever expect Qatar to go into it?
We're going to have to see. We're right in the middle of this thing. I think it would be the biggest statement that could be made on behalf of the Abraham Accords is if Saudi Arabia joins. And I think the Trump administration is talking about expanding trade relations, doing what we can to get closer to Saudi Arabia, to bring them within the accord.
Why has the president, I realize Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is in town today to certainly honor the late Senator Lindsey Graham, but he's also there supposedly delivering some fresh intelligence to the president. Why has the president kept Israel at arm's length these last month or so?
My hunch is it's to keep negotiations going both with Iran and the surrounding Gulf states, to say, look, our relationship with Israel is not predominant over our relationships elsewhere in the region. And we can be objective with regard to Israel. The administration is very pro-Israel. It doesn't have to pronounce it.
Okay, because there's another example on the table that's a little unnerving, and that is we really haven't, I say we, along with Israel, really haven't finished the job in Gaza with Hamas.
Right. That's very true.
And we are thinking that somehow Lebanon's going to take care of Hezbollah. That's like asking the fox to tell the other fox, stay out of the henhouse, I got it handled.
No, exactly. And again, open issues, the whole region as it's, Perry, when have we been alive when that region hasn't been a volcano? And it still is. And whether the people of Lebanon will be able to practice self-determination without Hezbollah, it's a huge question. Whether now Hamas, who is living underground like a bunch of moles, underground with their weapons, whether we can ever disarm them. And of course, the whole world is going to get up in arms if the IDF, if Israel Defense Forces go in and attempt to disarm Hamas. And these are the proxies of Iran. So doing the major damage in Iran, but you're exactly correct, Perry. What about where we started? What about Hamas? And how are we going to resolve that?
We don't finish, I say we, collectively. If Hezbollah isn't eliminated, Hamas isn't eliminated, Houthis aren't eliminated, even though they've been damaged, they haven't been eliminated. And then you got Turkey over here raising its ugly head.
Whether Turkey is, and they're a linchpin, aren't they, between NATO and their Middle Eastern neighbors. They're the linchpin between Europe and the Middle East, and how they go matters. They're a very strong state.
How do you look at this spiritually?
I think since time began, Christians have always been challenged. Since time began, Israel has always been challenged. And this is our challenge. Our challenge in America now, we can go right back to our first discussion. How much do we believe in the founding of this country? How much do we believe in the success we've known for 250 years? How much do we believe in individual rights, the separation of powers, the rule of law, common law? How much do we believe in that? Will we, and it's your other question, Perry. Okay, I've got a haircut appointment today, but I'm supposed to be voting. What's more important? I'm supposed to be going out to lunch with Ann Hyden today. Oh, but I forgot I have to vote today. What's more important? What is more important than the government that your grandchildren are going to have? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Take everything else out of your day on election day and vote.
Well said. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, check out the trilogy, and the last book is Passage Through the Shadows. Are they all available online, Richard?
In fact, Perry, if I may, if your listeners and viewers go to thednaofdemocracy.com, they can freely download the first volume in digital form or audio. They can take it with them in their car.
That's the DNAofdemocracy.com. Check that out. Check out Richard's website for everything else, richardclyons.com.